Now I'm going to say it because everybody has been thinking this. Yu-Gi-Oh is ass cheeks to the water. There is a huge problem in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. I think all of the new players know it, and I think all of the other players are starting to get it now too. So this actually started when I started making TikToks and the shorts and stuff. You guys know those little things that I be doing. By the way, go ahead and subscribe to me if you want to see more TikToks and shorts. I noticed in every single one of my comment sections in the video, there would literally be some Yu-Gi-Oh boomers. Yu-Gi-Oh turns take way too long. Back in my day, it was summon the blue-eyes white dragon and set 2 cards face down and end your turn. And normally when I see those comments, I'll be like, shut the fuck up, boomer. But recently, they've been kind of spitting fat. Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship 2023 just happened, and it was disappointing. The reason why I say this is because I did see a good portion of it, and most of the time, I was pretty much like this. But there were points in times where I actually got to take a literal dump, come back, and a player still wasn't done with their turn. And to be honest, I think that this is a problem with Modern Yu-Gi-Oh right now. A lot of times when you play Yu-Gi-Oh, you're playing solitaire. Players will literally take forever and a day just to complete their turn, and that never feels good. If you have enough time to go to the DMV and file your taxes and your opponent still isn't done with your turn, Konami may have a little bit of a problem right there. And I think it actually has to do with the complexity of the game. It's summon, 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 summon. But I literally have PTSD flashbacks when I see somebody playing a combo deck. A combo deck. No more combos! And the crazy thing is at the end of the combo, you get to a situation where you just simply can't play. The opponent has amassed so many cards on their side of the field, it's just ridiculous. It's almost like that time you took a girl out on a date and it only wound up being a date. Who am I kidding? All of your relationships only wind up being dates. It's a really bad situation where most of the time you win the dice roll, you win the game. And here is the actual second part. My guy, what the fuck is on Yu-Gi-Oh card text? My guy, literally just a random Yu-Gi-Oh card. Look at this card text. Look at it. It's a whole dictionary right here. The next biggest problem that I think that new players are experiencing right now, or players returning into the game, is that almost every single Yu-Gi-Oh card has a ridiculous amount. Look, I'll just pull out another one. Like, this is a lot. For a new player, this is a lot because it only is going to sit on the field for like 1 second. Between the time that it takes you to actually read the cards alongside of your opponent doing this outrageously long combo, playing Yu-Gi-Oh feels more like a chore than it feels like actually playing the game. And it still gets worse. Yu-Gi-Oh text has gotten ridiculously long for almost no reason. I haven't even showed you a pendulum card just yet. Like, my guy, if I wanted to read, I'd just go be an English major or something. I'm not here to read, I'm here to lead. I'm here to play Yu-Gi-Oh. It's kind of ironic though, is because the term Yu-Gi-Oh players can't read, it's not that we actually can't read, it's that we're incentivized not to read. There is a 45-minute time that we have to oblige to under for 3 games, and almost every single Yu-Gi-Oh card has a dictionary of text. It's like every single Yu-Gi-Oh card is like a text message to your girlfriend, but you wouldn't understand unless you had a girlfriend, right? And that's where Konami has put itself in even a more interesting conundrum. The response to this long text and super ridiculous combos is that Konami created hand trap Yu-Gi-Oh cards, cards that you can play from your hand to respond to your opponent on almost any given time. That's also another problem. At times, these hand trap cards can be either ridiculously oppressive or a must play inside of your deck, so much that almost every single deck pretty much looks the same. And I know that I'm getting slightly off topic, but if you take a look at Master Duel, almost every single Yu-Gi-Oh deck plays Ash Blossom, Maxi, Call by the Grave. And Yu-Gi-Oh, it's really not much different. There's popular cards like Triple Tactics Talon and Triple Tactics Thrust. Then there's other really popular engines like the Runics and the Bestial monsters that players are using. These are pretty much essential cards that everyone is playing right now, and you must play them. Oh, and then there's those times where your opponent reads all of the cards. Yeah. And it's almost like a no-win situation because Konami literally killed Yu-Gi-Oh by trying to fix the problem that they created. We've talked about long ass text. We've talked about how the interactions are very fun. We haven't even gotten to talk about some of the best cards that were actually really prevalent in the World Championship. Floodgates. Everybody loves floodgates, right? Right? Another way that Konami has tried to counter all of these huge long text in combo is by printing really short text cards that prevent players from performing certain actions. But that's when Yu-Gi-Oh gets even more unfair, because now Yu-Gi-Oh goes from a game of playing solitaire to who can get the floodgate first to turn off your opponent's strategy, so there's no interaction and no fun whatsoever. I think that that's also another part of the Yu-Gi-Oh problem. In looking from the outside in, why would a Yu-Gi-Oh player want to get into that? At best, you play a combo deck where your opponent isn't having any fun, and eventually you start winning so much, or the combo becomes so redundant that you get bored. The next thing is that you get hand trapped to death every single game. That feels incredibly fun. And the third one is that you get floodgated. That is pretty much any Yu-Gi-Oh player's experience getting into the game. And I know that there are content creators that have said just make a rotation format that simply does not change any of the things that I just said. And that's really because Konami continues to make new types of floodgates, new types of disruptions, and new cards that are just really oppressive or ridiculously busted with or without a rotation in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's why I genuinely sympathize with a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players that watch my shorts. It makes so much sense when you look at the game from the outside in. There's no real reason to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's why I've been trying to distance myself from competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Because overall, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is toxic in a sense. But just like any other problem that I bring, I have a solution. The first solution is that everybody should do the Fortnite dance. I think that dance is really cool. The first and biggest problem that is an easy solution to is fixing that shitty Yu-Gi-Oh! Card text that we have. My guy, all of this could be summed up with a couple of things. I like to look at other card games like Magic the Gathering to be able to gain some type of insight. And Magic the Gathering, instead of putting 2 words of text, you give a card an ability. Take, for example, monsters that are unaffected by spell traps and monster effects. Instead of saying, "This card is unaffected by spell traps and monster effects," just say immune. Literally, bullet point, immune, / monster spells traps, blah blah blah. Like, it makes so much sense, right? Second thing, which is incredibly even weirder, make bullet points. What makes it even worse is that Konami has bullet points on OCG Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Like, they separate the effects. You can do that for the TCG too. You could also just stop adding a million effects to the Yu-Gi-Oh cards too. That also may slow down the game as well. I think personally, it is okay to have a monster with multiple effects, but that monster should be reserved for your boss monster, like your most powerful monster in the game. Think about it, my friends, think about it. If I played a deck with a ton of cards with simple text that you knew what they did, you'd be like, cool. And then we get to the boss monster that may have 3 or 4 effects. You're like, okay, this is a card that I have to read, but you only have to read it once, and you don't have to read it 1 per deck. It would make so much sense. Plus, it would also give the deck a theme. It would make the deck seem way better and give players an effort to be able to play this particular deck. Just don't make the boss monster generic. Boss monsters should never be generic. Oh yeah, a prime example is Access Code Talker. Why does that card even exist on cards? It should literally require Code Talker monsters. But that also brings me to my next thing. I don't want to be that guy, but there are a lot of cards that should be way harder to summon. In order to prevent players from making these huge boards with almost no repercussions, just prevent them from making these huge boards. Off the top of my head, I can think of like several different Yu-Gi-Oh cards that are ridiculously busted that everybody plays, but actually belong to an archetype and nobody pays attention to it. Bro, people don't even know that Hockley Fibrix is a Crystron. There's a Crystron card that is banned on the ban list. That's crazy. I'm not 100% against being able to mix cards, but I am 100% against being able to mix everything. Holy crap, I think I'm becoming racist. I am a racist Yu-Gi-Oh player. You Cybers boy are not allowed in my Winged Beast deck. See? Winged Beast monster should not be able to make Access Code Talker. You guys understand? Maybe racism was not a bad thing. It's not about racism, guys. It's the racism we learned along the way. This also allows Konami to look at those floodgate cards and address those situations. Personally, I think every single floodgate should be banned. We saw what happened at the World Championship. If you flip up Floodgate, you win. But that's really just my thoughts on the solution to the problem that's happening in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. I want you guys to let me know, what do you think would be a great solution? Personally, I think that this is a great framework for Konami to be able to use to be able to improve the game, but of course you guys have your own solutions, and it's probably going to be ban X, Y, and Z card. I can't wait to read them.